Welcome to the Markets Happy Hour podcast, a weekly markets update for investors the world over. Each week we discuss inflation, geopolitics, interest rates, equity markets, and other asset classes. To try to answer the question, what does this mean for my investment portfolio? Let's dive in.
And moving now to equity markets. So clearly we're recording this on Thursday morning. We had NVIDIA's results last night. What were we looking at in the backdrop? There was a distinct chill in the air when it came to markets and their somewhat torrid recent run, at least in the last week. We did have this AI bubble talk. It became commonplace. It had gone from a few kind of outlier short sellers and contrarians to being the mainstay of financial media. And I think the other interesting part is that the crypto trade had been so, in a way, kind of a bellwether of the demand for tech, even though not completely related, but there is definitely overlap in holdings. Crypto has been quite under some pressure for a few weeks. I suppose the only upside, we had this upset, the first interruption to big tech outperformance since May. We've had this soaring profit announcement by NVIDIA, which may have soothed some of the jitters. And clearly, as we see, all roads lead to NVIDIA, not only in those complex interconnected webs that people like to draw, but also when it comes to market sentiment. So we've got a couple of things to say about US markets and other markets in this piece. But I'd love to hear, what you're thinking about the current sort of set of chills running through markets and whether it's justified.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's been a big run up in share prices, some of which is justified. But I think the stat that jumps out at me is, how strong, price momentum has been in some of these stocks, and particularly unprofitable and even no revenue stocks has been very, very, very pronounced. And so I think we are at a point where the market is taking stock a little bit. AI is kind of everything. I read a fantastic investor letter this morning that was saying, from a perspective of like the investing universe right now, AI is the sun, and everything else is kind of going round it in orbit, at different distances from the sun. And the closer you are to AI, the better your share price performance has been so far this year. So it's definitely been driving, almost everything.
Absolutely. And we have some slides, I think, some of which have been kindly taken from your letter, and others that have been showing up. And I think this is the point here, is that this has been showing up in earnings. If we were to do that word count in terms of how many times AI is mentioned, it's certainly been mentioned everywhere. And there has been discussions of productivity, with 47% of earnings calls discussing productivity. We've also seen massive signs of adoption across the spectrum. So not just in those top 7, top 10, there does seem to be that filtering through. I thought it was interesting, though, just to speak about this chart here. Everyone speaks about K-shaped recoveries. And I think K-shaped to me just indicates divergence. And some of the divergence here, where we're seeing that it has actually been the infrastructure stocks that have really soared. That has maybe it's natural, it's early cycle, it's where the capex has gone. But AI-enabled revenues have done decently, but productivity has had no potential impact on a stock's performance. Because maybe that's just a given that every single stock will somehow benefit from productivity. So I thought this was interesting that it's already investors have been discriminating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the AI story is clearly quite a bit more nuanced than that when you get below the surface, and as you say, it gets into different layers. Where's the infrastructure? Where's the power going to come from? Are the power estimates right? Is there going to be enough power? Obviously, there's been stories about communities being quite disgruntled by having huge drains of power for these data centers that are being built locally. So yeah, there's an awful lot going on here. But I think what you have to think about from this productivity perspective is thinking about if you go down the kind of list of sectors in the main market indices, and you think how big an impact is AI going to have here. I think you can certainly quite quickly find more than a handful where I don't see a massive productivity case for AI. It's not to say there aren't a lot where there is a big productivity case for AI, but I think equally, there's a big chunk of the economy that maybe we're not paying quite as much attention to, where there's a much more challenging case for productivity gains.